It's tough for people to understand PTSD and traumatic brain injury because you guys look fine. It's different than the injuries that people can see. Jeremiah, tell me about that and how that's tough to deal with.
I think, both these gentlemen would agree. We saw the two service members up here before, and like you said, we do look fine, and but what people don't see is just the families and just trying to readjust, and it's a battlefield wound without blood, and people don't understand that, but traumatic brain injury and PTSD really is a combat injury, and I think people are really starting to understand that now, but earlier in the war, not so much.
For folks out there, I mean, this is something that is the country getting better at recognizing this and dealing with it? Is the Pentagon getting better at helping you all?
I believe so. If I could join in. I had the privilege and honor to meet Vice Chairman of the Chief of Staff, General Shirelli, who is very passionate about PTSD, along with the Chief of Staff, General Casey. PTSD right now is, I want to make sure I say this the right way. When you are filling out an application, if you will, it says on there, have you ever had any mental evaluations, with the exception of war-related PTSD. I think that's a huge step because the veterans that came back from Vietnam didn't have that option. These are the veterans that went before us so that we could serve after them. They didn't have the luxury that we do today. And when I say luxury, the VA care here in the Metro DC area is just phenomenal when it comes to PTSD and war-related injuries that we call the hidden war-related injuries. The care that I receive on a personal level is just amazing. Could it be better? Absolutely. I think everybody's health care could be better in one way or another. Mm-hmm. But I think that the staff that we have in place now is definitely doing something about it. And I applaud to them for that.
Jeremiah?
Totally agree. I, back in 2004, 2005, I don't think a lot of people knew what, I didn't know what PTSD was. I'd never even heard of it, really. But I can tell you, I had the opportunity to work at the Pentagon for a couple years. I drove for the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps. And, in my travels with him and the Commandant of the Marine Corps, they've made it very well known to every person in the Marine Corps that, PTSD is a combat injury, will be treated as such. It will not affect your career. And that's the big thing, there's such a stigma involved, and it's just trying to get that, with all the, the macho military, thing going on, just getting people to realize that, PTSD is a normal reaction to a normal situation, and that if you break your leg, you go to medical and you get a cast put on it, and 8 weeks later you're okay. Well, same thing with PTSD. If you jump on it early and you get the counseling and you do what the doctors tell you to, there's a good chance that you're going to come through it and move on and be very successful. And I think we've come a long way, light years, from where we were back at the beginning of the war, and they're doing an incredible job of identifying it and taking care of the warriors.
Okay, Jim.
Yeah, and I agree with both of those gentlemen, and particularly for the Air Force. In some ways, we're probably a lot further behind the other services, but we just don't have the volume, fortunately, for people in the Air Force to really get the situation. And in the year that I've been in the medical system, I've seen orders of magnitude increase in effectiveness and care for me personally and for other people with whom I've been associated. And just like they said, PTSD, half the time, I think I'm making it up because I feel like me all the time. It's other people's reactions or people with whom I've been associated for a long time that really can tell, like my wife. she's been a great help and support to remind me that, yeah, I am kind of broken. Didn't cuss there. I thought I was about to. And that this is something where I need help. And fortunately, I've kind of gotten over my macho, I can fix anything attitude and gotten help. And, I think at this point, I'll get better. I mean, I don't feel hopeless or like this is just the way I'm going to live for the rest of my life, because there is hope now. And it's because of the treatment I've gotten. And like I said, yeah, and like you asked, it has gotten better, and it will continue to get better. Hopefully, it won't get perfect. Hopefully, we'll be out of the war before we really have to kind of get this nailed down. But it has gotten better, and I am thankful for gentlemen who've come before me who've kind of paved the way and stood up and said, yeah, this is a problem. And I have it so that it was easier for me to do. It was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, was admitted that I actually had a problem. And that's all.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing your story, and hopefully it does continue to progress and get better. Thank you. When we return, we will meet two service members who have turned to the world of sports to aid in their physical and mental recovery. Stay tuned.